The old man was about to end his life on the train tracks. A passenger suddenly collapsed and fell onto the tracks ahead of him. A fast-moving train was coming closer. He looked around and saw no one willing to help. Some people were filming on their phones and others just watching coldly. He jumped down onto the tracks and pulled the person to safety. After saving the person, he did not immediately get back onto the platform. He just stood beside the tracks waiting for the train to pass. Then he noticed a young boy nearby. He did not want to scare the child, so he climbed back up at the last moment. He went home and prepared to hang himself to end his life. He looked at a photo of his wife and paused for a moment. He moved the photo to a window with better sunlight. Then he continued preparing to end his life. Just as he was getting ready, a neighbor moved into the area. The neighbor drove into the community and accidentally hit his wife's favorite mailbox. He went downstairs and fixed the parking situation without saying much. Back upstairs, he continued preparing to end his life. But noise from the neighbor outside interrupted him. There were children playing near his door. He worried about scaring the children and put the rope away. The next morning he went to the cemetery to see his wife. He kept wiping the tombstone even though it was already clean. He talked to her as if she were still there. He also complained about the new neighbor. On the way home he felt emotionally heavy. He still could not accept how life had changed. Back at home he became briefly calm. Then he looked at his wife's photo and smiled faintly. He smelled her clothes and memories came rushing back. He remembered her organizing books at home. His longing became stronger. He decided again to end his life. He put the rope around his neck very directly. Just as he was about to act, the doorbell rang. He went outside and saw the neighbor family. They came with food to apologize. And also wanted to borrow a ladder. He felt annoyed but still gave it to them. Then an elderly woman from next door came over. She asked him to fix her heater. She also mentioned his wife. This made him lose control emotionally. He shouted out all his frustration. After returning home he became quiet again. He looked at his wife's photo and calmed down. He once again walked toward the rope. Just as he was about to continue, the doorbell rang again. The bell kept ringing repeatedly. He walked outside angrily to check. It was two children from the neighbors standing there. The children looked at him with innocent curiosity. He wanted to send them away. But he stopped himself again. Their presence interrupted his plan. He put the rope away again. The next morning the neighbors brought breakfast. They apologized again sincerely. They asked to borrow the ladder once more. He did not want to engage but still gave it to them. The elderly woman came again asking for help with the heater. She mentioned his wife again. That triggered him emotionally. He exploded in anger and said many harsh things. Then he returned home alone. The house became quiet again. He looked at his wife's photo and slowly calmed down. He smelled her clothes again and smiled faintly. Memories pulled him back deeply. He remembered her organizing the bookshelf. He remembered their life together in detail. His emotions became more complex. He decided again to end his life. He put on a suit in his room. He closed the curtains and sealed the room. He put the rope around his neck again. He was very familiar and determined. Just as he was about to act, there was noise outside. He looked out the window. He saw children playing in the yard. They were looking toward his house curiously. He stopped again. He walked downstairs and removed the rope. Then he went outside into the street. He met the neighbor couple. The husband had been injured and they were panicking. They asked him to drive them to the hospital. He was unwilling but still agreed. He drove them in silence. After arriving, the wife went to care for her husband. The children stayed with him. He had never been alone with children before. He did not know how to respond. The children ran around the hospital hallway. He followed them awkwardly. Later the children started crying and causing trouble. He was forced to calm them down. He began speaking in simple words. His tone was not gentle but it worked. The children gradually became quiet. They even started to rely on him. He felt uncomfortable but did not reject them. The children made strange requests. He frowned but still helped. His cold attitude slowly softened. Time passed slowly. The parents returned to pick them up. They thanked him. The children hugged him before leaving. He felt awkward but did not push them away. He stood alone outside the hospital. His plan had been completely disrupted. He fell into silence again. But he did not return to his suicide plan. He went home with mixed emotions. He sat in his room staring blankly. Life sounds continued outside. For the first time he did not shut everything out. He went to his wife's grave again. He sat quietly beside it. He told her about his day. His tone was still calm but longer than before. He spoke as if reporting life. He mentioned the neighbors and the children. He mentioned his interrupted plans. He also mentioned feelings he could not explain. He still did not know if he should continue living. On his way home he saw a stray cat. The cat was injured and hiding near his house. The children were allergic so they could not keep it. The neighbors could not handle it. So the cat stayed with him. He stood at the door looking at it. He did not make a decision right away. He simply stood in silence. Then he gently closed the door. At that moment his life began to change. He started to accept its presence. He still complained but did not drive it away. Life was no longer completely empty. He continued visiting his wife's grave. He sat by the tomb and talked as usual. His tone was less intense than before. He spoke more about daily life. He mentioned the cat and the neighbors. He treated it like reporting everyday events. Back home the cat was still waiting. He paused and finally let it inside. His home now had another living presence. He went to buy food for it. On the way he met more neighbors. They started greeting him. He still responded coldly but did not refuse. He realized the new neighbors were not bad. They were just clumsy and messy. One day the neighbor asked for help again. They asked him to drive someone to the hospital. He refused verbally but still went. He began getting pulled into community matters. Slowly he became someone people relied on. He fixed things and solved problems. He complained but always helped. He did not realize the change in himself. The elderly woman asked again for heater repair. This time he fixed it without anger. She thanked him. He accepted quietly without much response. On the way home the neighbor wanted to learn driving. He refused at first but still taught them. He kept scolding them while teaching. The neighbor kept making mistakes. He almost lost his temper. But he finished the lesson. He took them to a restaurant his wife liked. He spoke about the past for the first time. He mentioned his best friend Rooney. He talked about disagreements in youth. They once argued about choosing a car. One preferred old models and the other new ones. But the real issue was lifestyle differences. Their relationship slowly drifted apart. He spoke calmly. It felt like memory rather than anger. A reporter came again wanting an interview. He refused and sent her away. But the neighbor talked to her instead. He was angry but stayed silent. On the way home he saw a drawing by a child. In the drawing everyone was black except him. He froze and said nothing. At night the cat slept beside him. The room was no longer completely silent. He looked at everything in silence. He went to the grave again. He told his wife what had been happening. He said he did not know why he was still here. His voice was lower and slower. He returned home and faced community issues. People wanted to demolish old houses. He started researching rules and documents. He even repaired his house overnight. He kept opposing local authorities. But no one really paid attention. One night a fire broke out in a neighbor house. People only watched and did not help. He rushed in immediately after hearing cries. He rescued people from the fire. But his own house was burning. He tried to go back but was stopped. He watched his home collapse. All memories of his wife were inside. He stood still in front of the fire. After that he broke down again. He tried to end his life again. But was interrupted once more. He went to confront a store clerk about rope quality. But he did not say his real intention. He went to the grave again and lay beside his wife. As if waiting for something. Back home he tried again in his car. He sealed the windows and connected exhaust. But memories pulled him back. He remembered meeting his wife. Her red heels on the train. The moment she paid for his ticket. He remembered daily train rides. His failed lies and nervous first dates. He remembered marriage and moving in together. He remembered building a life together. He also remembered losing a child. Yet she still tried to live on. He remembered fixing the house for her. Helping her return to work. Finally he remembered her death. That was the point he could not accept. He sat in the car for a long time. He did not start the engine. Eventually he stopped everything. He returned to reality. He heard the neighbors knocking. People outside still cared about him. For the first time he did not fully close the door. He stood behind it listening. He did not continue toward the end. At that moment he was neither starting a new life nor finishing the old one.